I want to say hello to everybody. Welcome to one of our holiday series offerings here at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County. This is the session on Gifts from a Joyful Kitchen. It's my pleasure, and it's been a lot of fun working with the team that you see on the screen here. But I'm going to do a little pesky commercial for Cornell Cooperative Extension before we get started. This may be some of your first experience with Cornell Cooperative Extension, and that is fantastic. So Cornell Cooperative Extension can be found in every county in New York State. We're the outreach of Cornell University, helping you put knowledge to work and improve the lives of those who participate in any of our programs. And they are wide-ranging, I will tell you. Anywhere from what you're experiencing tonight to agriculture production, all the way up to youth development programs in our 4-H program and our nutrition programs. We have healthy living and healthy homes programs. So we have a lot to offer. We like to say that we actually have something for everyone. So I encourage you to reach out to Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County or your cooperative extension in your own home county. Some housekeeping. So those of you who are on your devices, you might want to take a look at the bottom of your screen. There is a chat box. We are encouraging everybody to use the chat box for questions. There will also be a point in this presentation where we'll be sharing a video. And when I do that, you may have to adjust the audio on your own device. It can be a little inconsistent from device to device, so a little heads up on that. The other thing is, I just hope that you could take something home. Of course, you're already home, but I hope you actually are able to apply something. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It's really all about celebrating this season, whatever that may mean to you. And I know we're all dealing with a season that we've never had with the pandemic that we've all been struggling with. But I hope you're able to sit back, and I hope I've got a nice cup of cocoa here. I've got some popcorn. You might hear dogs in the background. I'll try to mute myself. But it's really all about making the most of your home environment tonight and spreading that to those you love around you. So without further ado, I'm going to actually introduce those who are going to do the work tonight of sharing some wonderful ideas. First off, we have Erin Walsh. Erin on my screen is in my upper right, but it could be somewhere else on your screen. Erin actually was newly elected to our board of directors here in Cornell Cooperative Extension. We're excited about that, but she's also quite an experienced master food preserver. So she brings a lot of background to this session tonight. Also joining us is a friend of Cooperative Extension, Hali Bey-Ramdene. And she is awesome. We have fostered, I think, a very good relationship with her over the past couple of months. She comes to us with quite a breadth of experience, and right now is a Home and Gardens food editor. So she has quite a bevy of things to pull from with what she's going to share tonight. We really appreciate that. Last but not least, we have Mary Kopache, who's currently on our board of directors, but she's also been the kingpin of our marketing committee, which is the reason why we have these wonderful series. We had a fall series, and now we're having this series here that's based around the holidays. Mary Lee has many talents. She's a master gardener, a master food preserver, a 4-H leader in the past, and still keeps her tentacles there. We lure her in to help with evaluations and other things with 4-H. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to turn it over to Erin and Hali. Thank you.
Well, hi. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I think we're pretty excited for all the stuff that we're going to share tonight. I hope you all are too. One thing I do want to mention before we get started, that we're going to be sharing a lot of recipes tonight, and you don't have to worry about taking notes or anything. All the recipes will be available in a PDF. So Bernie will send that out tomorrow, I believe. So you know, you can always go back and you'll be able to reference that. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit, you know, the title of this is Joyful Kitchen. And, you know, I really think it's an apt title, especially this time of year, because I feel like food's that thing that binds us, especially in the holidays. And I think holidays are kind of a little difficult for people this year, but we can still tie in a lot of those traditions that we've had through food and sharing food with people that we love.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was asked to help participate in this, and we were thinking about the theme of a joyful kitchen, it made me realize that probably during this whole pandemic, the kitchen has been like the safe space for a lot of people. It's probably been the space that we've all been like going to feel like things are the same and normal. And as we get into a holiday season, that's going to be very different for a lot of us. Go back into the kitchen and use that space to start creating things that you are going to share with other people, especially the people that you love. So when I think of a joyful kitchen, I think of the kitchen being joyful all year long, but especially so during the holidays. So for us, that looks like gifts that we can make in our kitchen and spread and share. So there's a lot of delicious stuff coming up over the course of this next hour, but we're going to get started by asking you to share in the chat if you have any food traditions that you are either making sure stay strong this year or some new ones that you're starting. And hopefully some of the things that you see on this video will be of inspiration for you. Erin is going to get us started. She actually has a food tradition that's kind of getting started with her spiced pears, right? Erin, is that right?
Yeah, so I've been making spiced pears now for a couple of years, which are a canned item. I've got some right here. So they're processed in a water bath canner. And these I've been making for, like I said, a couple of years now. And they're some of my favorites I've got two little boys, and well, the one that talks is asked for them a lot. He was asking for them this morning, but there's something that they look forward to. So yeah, it's certainly something that's become a tradition in our house. And so the spiced pears, so they're pears that are really in this lovely syrup that has a lot of those warm, wintry holiday spices that we think of, the ginger and the cinnamon and the cloves. And they're kind of offset by a little bit of vinegar in there. So it makes it really light, refreshing, which is a nice accompaniment to a lot of the standard holiday desserts we have, like gingerbread, but it's also great just on their own or with yogurt or oatmeal, anything like that. And then as an added bonus, the syrup, after you've eaten the pears, the syrup itself is really delicious. And it's something that you can pour into like a seltzer to make, you know, a non-alcoholic drink. I think especially after the holidays, people are looking for a little bit of a break. So I pour the syrup into seltzer, or you could also pour it into some sparkling wine and make a yummy cocktail that way. So the spiced pears, we actually pre-recorded a video going through step-by-step how to make that. And those are on our Rensselaer County Cooperative Extension YouTube channel. So you can, the video's up and live now, so you can certainly go check that out. And if you've never canned before, you've never water bath canned, you can also check out our first webinar where I walk you through all the steps of doing that, going through that one by one. Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the things you guys love to make. So Donna, gingerbread cookies. My 4-year-old has been asking me for at least a week when we're going to make gingerbread cookies. So that's definitely something that's on mine as well. And oh yeah, lasagna. That's a favorite at our house as well. My husband's the lasagna maker. So last year he made it for our Christmas party. Hopefully he'll make it again this year, Son's Christmas party. But you know, we're all adapting for this year. So yeah, spiced pears are a favorite of mine for the holidays. A couple of other things that I really like to make and give as gifts. A couple of canned items. Jams are always super popular. I also make usually like a peach pie filling or an apple pie filling that I can. And we have a recipe for that in the PDF that's going to go out. So if anyone's interested in that, that usually goes over really well as a gift. And then I think, yeah, the granola is what we're featuring in this video that's coming up. So granola is a house favorite of ours. We almost always have it in our house. And it's also something that makes a really nice gift. It's light, so it can ship easily. It's yummy pretty much any time of day. And in it, I also dry some apples and mix that in. So we get a little bit of tutorial on dehydrating fruit and then making the granola. Oh, Chex Mix. Oh, I haven't had Chex Mix in a while.
I know, I'm getting a lot of inspiration
I'm gonna go look.
from this chat. Let's see, what do we got here? So Chex Mix and homemade cinnamon buns for Christmas morning, which, I mean, you're everybody's favorite if you're doing that, Susan. Reindeer cookies with spices for stockings. This is great. Holiday baking just always lifts the spirit. So, and granola, I think, counts as like the easiest form of holiday baking, probably.
Yeah, and one of the reasons I really like granola is, like I've mentioned, I have 2 little boys, and they're really able to jump right in because it's and help with that, which one brings them into the kitchen so that they're involved. And it's great to build that tradition, give them cooking skills, and then, you know, giving it as gifts, they're involved, like they've actually helped to make the gifts that they're giving to people.
So we've got a video of you making granola that we're going to share with everyone.
Yeah.
Yep, sit tight. I'm going to share my screen, so hopefully we'll transition as smoothly as possible.
And everyone feel free in the chat to leave questions or share notes and discuss things amongst yourself. We all can see it, so we're all here.
And remember to adjust your audio if you need to. And here we go.
Hi. For this demo, I am going to be drying some apples and then incorporating them into a homemade granola that is a delicious little treat to package up and give to family and friends. So right here, I have some Braeburn apples that I've gone ahead and washed. And now I'm going to peel them, core them, and slice them into pieces. So I'm using Braeburn apples, but as far as, you know, I know, to the best of my knowledge, any apple is suitable for drying. Just pick an apple that you enjoy the flavor of, and keep in mind that when you're drying apples, or any fruit for that matter, as they dry, the natural sugars in them are going to concentrate, so the final product will be sweeter. So for that reason, I like to go to the tart or semi-tart apples. So as I mentioned, I'm peeling these apples. When you're drying apples, you have the option of leaving the peels on. Just know that they will take longer to dry. When I'm doing apple slices, I often leave the peels on, but because I'm going to cut these into smaller pieces that are great for throwing into things like the granola we'll be making, or muffins, or trail mixes, I am going to peel them, just because the peel to fruit ratio gets a little too high if I leave the peel on in these smaller pieces. Now, one step you'll often see when reading directions for dehydrating fruit is to put the fruit into an anti-darkening solution, which helps the fruit to maintain its color. So I almost always skip this step. I don't find it necessary with dehydrating fruit, because to me, I kind of expect dried fruit to have a brownish color, so I don't find the brownish color off-putting. If you want to maintain the color of your fruit, certainly by all means go ahead and make an anti-darkening solution. You would want to take 2 quarts, there we go, 2 quarts cold water, and mix in a 1/2 teaspoon of either citric acid or sorbic acid. Alternately, with apples, you could just use a fruit juice, just a store-bought fruit juice, anything that's high in vitamin C. So an orange juice, pineapple juice, cranberry juice are all fine. Even some apple juices now have been fortified with extra vitamin C. It's the vitamin C that helps the fruit maintain its color. And what's kind of fun about using juices is that you can play with some fun flavor combinations, like make a cran apple, dried apple, and they will also take on a bit of the color, so that's kind of fun, but just something to keep in mind also. Okay, so I peeled the apple. Now I'm going to cut it into quarters. And then to remove the core, I'm just going to slice it at an angle and take out the core that way. When I'm doing pieces, I find it much simpler to just use a knife to do all the chopping, opposed to when I'm doing apple rings, apple slices, then I'll usually use an apple core and a mandolin. Okay, so now that we've got the chunks, now I'm just gonna slice them into wedges. And I'm slicing each quarter into 5 wedges here. And then I'm going to go the opposite way and slice it into pieces. So these are, I don't know, probably 1/4 inch thick pieces or so. And just go all the way down like that. Those didn't stay all nice and lined up. And then once we do have the pieces, so I'm going to put them onto my dehydrator screens here. So when you're putting them on, you want to make sure, you want to kind of get like sizes together. With these small pieces, they're all going to be fairly the same size. But just, do know that the larger pieces are going to take a little bit longer to fully dry than the smaller pieces. So if you sort them at the beginning, it's much easier than to take out pieces that are finished sooner than others and then put them back in. So I'm just lining these pieces up. You can get them pretty close. You don't want them touching or overlapping because they will stick, but they don't need a lot of space in between them. As they dry, they are going to shrink. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to finish chopping up these apples, get these ready, put them all on here, and then I'm going to load them into my electric dehydrator, which I have set at 135, and I'll check back on them in a couple hours. Then we'll come back here and I'll show you how to check for doneness. The apples have finished their drying time. But before we take them out and check them, I just wanted to take a quick second to show you what the dehydrator I use, at least, looks like. So this is a horizontal airflow dehydrator. The lid pops right off like that. And then inside, I've got 9 shelves that slide out right like that. So I'm going to take these shelves out, bring them into the kitchen, and we'll test the apples for doneness. The total drying time for these apple pieces today was about 6 hours. Now, drying time can vary greatly depending on the variety of apple, how much moisture is in the air, the thickness with which you've cut the fruit. So I like to set a timer for 6 hours, but then check on it every couple of hours and see how they're progressing. And also know that the more they're dried, the closer you are to the end of the drying time, the more quickly they dry. Now, with apples, with any fruit, we're not looking to dry them until they're brittle like we would be vegetables. And that's because with dried fruit, we're usually not reconstituting it. We're just going to use it as is. So we want to retain about 20% moisture content, which leaves us with a pliable product. So we'll test now to check that doneness. So how we're going to check to see that we've reached the 20% moisture is I'm feeling the fruit. It doesn't feel sticky or tacky. I can bend it in half and see that it doesn't stick to itself. And then the final kind of test is to take it apart and give it a little squeeze. I want to make sure that I don't see any moisture beads on that inside fruit, which I don't. So that tells me that I've reached the adequate drying time. Now, the next step, I think this is where most people then just package up their fruit and are done with it. But we want to make sure we are conditioning the fruit. And what that means is we're going to store it in a clear container. Glass or plastic is fine, but you do want to make sure it's clear. And so we're going to package the fruit in, and we do not want to fill the jar up all the way. We want to fill it 2/3, 3/4 or so. We just want to make sure that there's room on the top. I have my apple pieces in here now, and I'm just going to put a lid on it. On the lid, I'll write the variety of apple, just because this year at least, I've dried several different varieties, so I want to keep track of the variety as well as the date. And then for the next week, I want to, once a day or so, give the jar a shake, and also check the jar to see if there's any condensation forming. Now, if any condensation forms on the jar, I'll know, or inside the jar, I'll know that my apples or whatever fruit weren't adequately dried, and I'll put them back in the dehydrator for another 30 minutes or an hour or so. And then we want to shake it once a day to make sure that the moisture within the dried fruit is distributed evenly. After a week, you can then pack your jars fully. So these are some apple rings that I had dried last week. I already went through the conditioning process, and now I can fully pack my jars, again, seal them tightly, and store them away. Now that we have our dried apples, I'm going to go ahead and make a homemade granola with them. This granola it's a staple in our house. We almost always have it on hand, and it also makes a great gift to give to family, friends, neighbors, whoever, at the holidays or whenever you feel like giving someone a little treat. The recipe is super simple, so it's something that young kids can help out with, which is another great way to incorporate them in the kitchen, as well as have them help make gifts for families. So we're going to start with rolled oats. I've got 3 cups rolled oats. I'm going to dump in. And then we're going to add nuts and seeds. You want a total of 2 to 2.5 cups. So my favorite combination is I have 1 cup of pepitas, which are shelled pumpkin seeds. I have a 1/2 cup chopped almonds and a 1/2 cup chia seeds. Actually, it's a little light. I ran out of chia seeds as I was getting ready for this recipe. And then I have, for spices, I have 1.5 teaspoons of salt, a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. So I'm going to dump those all into the bowl and give them a good stir. Now that everything's mixed together, I'm going to pour in a 1/2 cup of olive oil and a 1/2 cup maple syrup. And then I'm just going to mix all of that together. You'll notice that I've left out our dried apples, because those I don't want to bake those. They'll dry out too much if they get baked again, and that's true with any dried fruit. So those I'm just going to add in after we've baked this. Okay, so now that the mixture is all well coated, I have a baking sheet lined with parchment, and I'm just going to dump this all out onto the baking sheet. I'm trying to get everything in the bowl. It's a little sticky. Okay. And then just spread it out in a nice even layer. And I do find that parchment paper is pretty necessary in this recipe. I've I've definitely had it stick to the pan before where it's burnt, and I've been kind of trying to pry it off. So I do always use parchment when I'm baking the granola. So once I get this all into a nice even flat layer, I'm going to put it into my oven in the middle rack, and I have preheated my oven to 350. So I'm going to put it in. I'm going to set the timer for 12 minutes and then rotate it and put it in for another 10 to 12 minutes until it's golden brown. Here's the finished granola that I've taken out of the oven and let cool down. So I like a granola that's got some big clumps, kind of a chunky granola. So I put it in the oven and I didn't stir it, I just left it as is. If you like a granola that has all the pieces separate and discreet, then every 5 or 10 minutes just take a wooden spoon and stir the granola while it is in the oven. So I've got my dried apples here that we worked on earlier that I'll add in. So I'm just going to take the granola and just break it up a little right here on the pan. You can see the bottom got a nice golden brown. Broken up a little bit, I'm just going to sprinkle the apples over the top and then finish mixing it up right on the pan. From here then, I can package it up in either a glass jar, keep it here at my house, give it to a friend, or especially if you're going to give it as a gift, just a little plastic baggie of sorts would be fine. And there we go, a delicious little treat.
Okay, well, I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I encourage you, if you do have any questions, you can throw them into the chat. And I will just point out down on the bottom of the chat box, you can click to all panelists and attendees. But I do also see that we have a question from Deb about the spiced pears I mentioned. So Deb asked if apples could be substituted for pears in the recipe, and that's a great question, because when you're canning, substitutions are something that you want to be very careful about, because you don't want to upset the pH, acidity level of what you're canning. But yes, you can substitute apples for the pears. They're both high acid ingredients, and apples are actually slightly more acidic than pears, so they would be a fine substitute in that. And then Michelle just asked, how long does the granola last, and do you need to refrigerate it? You do not need to refrigerate it. I don't know how long it would last. I don't think it ever, we keep it in a glass jar, but I think a batch of granola for me usually only lasts about a week and a half. But I think as long as you keep it in an airtight container, you know, it would last probably several weeks, a month, and it would just get a little stale. I don't think nothing in it would go bad. And then Catherine asked, what if you don't have a dehydrator? So you can certainly use your oven to dehydrate. You want to make sure your oven gets to a low temperature, like 140, 150, 170. You could do 200, but it's going to be on the high side. So you're just going to want to watch it. And what you're going to want, if you have a convection oven, certainly turn on the convection, because you want that airflow. If you don't have a convection oven, you're going to want to prop the door open with like a wooden spoon or something and kind of put a fan in. And so it's just something I haven't dehydrated in the oven in a long time, but the National Center for Home Food Preservation, I believe, has some more detailed information on dehydrating in the oven, but it certainly is something you can do. You just need to be watchful of it. Jennifer, absolutely skip the cardamom. And that's like one of the things I love about that recipe is you can really make it your own. You know, you can vary up the seeds and the nuts that you have. You could put in another dried fruit. Yeah, use whatever spices you like. Make it yours.
Erin, I'd like to add something.
Yes.
Because some people haven't started canning or haven't ever decided they'd want to. And that is not something that has to be put in a can. A can does not have to be processed, right? I think you've told us. These are some that I canned, and these are just chopped up pears, the pears, and they're so delicious. And these are processed, but they don't have to be, correct? For using in your refrigerator, giving as a gift to be eaten right now.
You could certainly just make the spice syrup and just you do them like, because they're kind of like a pickle because they've got the vinegar in them. So they're kind of like, you could kind of just make a refrigerator pickle out of them. Yeah, just keep them in the refrigerator, non-processed. Then you would definitely want to keep them in the refrigerator. And I would just say, just wait at least a few days or so to let the flavors all meld.
They're delicious.
Yeah.
Thank you. You told me about them. Great. Thank you.
Okay, so up next, I'm going to show you guys how to make lemon curd, which is a food that the first time I ever tasted it, which was like kind of like in my like mid to early 20s, I felt like, how could I have gone this far in my entire life without knowing this existed? But it was worth waiting for. So lemon curd is basically just a mixture. It's very simple. It's lemon juice, it's butter, it's eggs, it's salt, it's a little bit of lemon zest. So I'm going to show you a very simple recipe that, full disclosure, I worked on when I was working at the kitchen. So this recipe comes from that website. So if you were going to send it to you in the PDF, but it's also there, and there's some fun other curd recipes because the citrus is something that you can swap out. I have made this with grapefruit, blood oranges, lime, Meyer lemons, which aren't as tart as regular lemons. They're a little bit sweeter and they have a like a floral fragrance to them. The amount of sugar you use to the different citruses is going to depend on how tart and tangy you like things. I prefer my curd on the like pucker up side. So the recipe I'm sharing with you today is definitely on the more tart side. So this is 100% for lemon lovers, but it's a recipe that you can use with pretty much like any place that you want a dollop of sweetness. So I like it on toast in the morning or swirled into oatmeal or yogurt. It's really good with berries. So if you have a stash in your freezer, bring them out. They love to play with lemon curd. So I have started this recipe just because I'm going to work on it live. So what I have going on right here are 3 eggs. It's 2 egg yolks and 1 whole egg that I mixed with half a cup of sugar. And I whisked it together for a bit until it becomes opaque and creamy. And you end up with this color. And you kind of start to feel all the sugar melting into the egg yolks. You want everything really well combined. And once that's done, the other thing that I have already done, we're kind of dropping you in the middle of this recipe, is I heated up a cup of lemon juice until it reduced down to 3/4 cups. This is also how I get that really intense lemon flavor. I'm concentrating it. You want to wait for this to cool down before you add it to the sugar and egg mixture. We're not really trying to overcook our eggs. But even if that happens a little bit, there's a straining step in this process that takes care of all of this. This also has lemon zest in it. The lemon zest is where you get that like pure lemon flavor. The oil is where the essential oil from lemon is in the peel. And so by adding the lemon zest to the liquid, that's what we've got here. So this is cool. I reduced this down to 3/4 cups. I've got my sugar and my eggs in here, and I'm just gonna pour this in and whisk it. So we're gonna actually head back to the stove after this part and heat everything back up. So lemon curd, there's a lot of opportunity to personalize here. I have done lemon curd that's a little bit looser, so it's more of like a drizzly lemon curd, which is really good in ice cream. Or you can do it a bit thicker, which is better for spreading. When you are trying to adjust for the consistency, it's a matter of adding a little bit more lemon juice or reducing the amount of sugar. And those directions will be there for you in the PDF. So now I'm gonna add this mixture. Everything's all blended together to a pan. Can you guys still see me? Hello, yes. All right. This is a little saucepan that I have over medium heat. And this is where we're just gonna cook this for like 6 to 8 minutes until it starts to thicken. I'm gonna switch over though from a whisk to just a spatula, because it's really easy with a spatula to start working in too much air to the lemon curd. It's not a problem, but then you get bubbles in it. And so when it's settling, you kind of have 2 layers. It's easy to just mix and break that up, but you might as well start the right way and just switch over to a spatula and let this go. So I'm gonna cook this for a little bit until it starts to thicken. And you'll know it's the right consistency because when you drag your spoon through it, it'll leave a little bit of a streak. And also you can also take the temperature. You want it to get up to 180 degrees. So that's what I am going to be working on over here. But while this is cooking, I thought we could head back over into the chat and hear about what some plans are for the holidays, what people have going on in their home kitchens for the holidays. How was your Thanksgiving? What are you looking forward to this Christmas? Maybe we can start with who we've got on the call. So Mary Lee, do you want to tell us about some of the holiday baking and cooking traditions you've got coming up?
I'm on the spot. Gee, yes, we do a lot of pastry. We do a holiday pastry. It's pecan. It's like a toffee flavoring. Pecan pastry, we braid it, and it's so light and buttery. And we have that every Christmas morning. It happens to be Christmas is what we celebrate. And then we also have, my mother-in-law has, her family was from Wales. So they have, gee, I forgot what it's even called. It's like it's in this container, and it's like a rum saturated, not a fruit cake, but more of a, I guess maybe a fruit cake, but yes, because it has raisins and nuts, but no other kinds of chewy, gooey things. So, and she puts a cheesecloth over and saturates it with rum each day. And the recipe literally is 150 years old, and it's I'm trying to make it, so I don't know all the details, to be honest. Now my daughter's making it, so it's a nice tradition. Mm-hmm.
Someone was wondering, is it fig pudding, Mary Lee?
It is like a fig pudding. I'm going to have to look it up, and I'll put it on the website. But it is a family tradition, so I have to check with my mother-in-law first.
Mary Lee was telling us about this before we all went live, and I was really excited about it. It's something that I would love to try. So yeah, I would love it if you shared the recipe.
Actually, we have a neighbor, and I think she's on tonight, Chris's daughter, that she has taken on the recipe. They do it at their home because of my mother-in-law. They were our lifelong neighbors, and I think someone else I know that might be in my family's on there, so she might put it into the chat box and tell me what the name of it is. But it is really fun. It's lovely, and it has a vinegary sweet kind of sauce that you pour on it, so it's got this lovely layers of flavor. It's really good. But maybe this year we'll use the pear, spiced pear for an option.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, Donna, yeah, I think Thanksgiving was quiet at our house this year also. I think that's kind of the name of the game for a lot of people this year. But yeah, the cinnamon rolls for breakfast, I'd love cinnamon rolls.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a fabulous, fabulous breakfast tradition I always have, this eggs Benedict for our Christmas morning meal. But maybe we should add some cinnamon rolls.
It's time for new traditions.
Yeah, yeah.
And to hear about other holidays celebrated during the full during this winter time. I like to hear what other people, other holidays and traditions they celebrate with your food, how they celebrate.
Well, I will say my birthday is the day before Christmas. So my family has always been very adamant about it not being like too Christmassy up until right after my birthday. And then it's just like full on Christmas extravaganza after. But it's always, we always have French toast in the morning, like down to the powdered sugar and the maple syrup and whatever like fruit is hanging around goes on top.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna do a little lemon curd check-in here with you guys. So, you know what? We're gonna have a little fumbling for a second. I want to switch this around and really show. Okay. Okay. So you can see that this is getting pretty thick. We're not quite there when I drag it, that you get the streak that stays. And this is on, I turn this down to low heat because I really don't want it to overcook the eggs. I mean, it's a little bit inevitable, which is why we're going to strain this. Of course, if you wanted to skip it all together, you could do it in a water bath. The thing about lemon curd and the recipes for lemon curd is that there's a whole bevy of ways to do this. I've seen people do it in a water bath. I've seen people do all egg yolks. This recipe I find with the one at whole egg in it is pretty stable, which is why I like it. And it's not as egg yolky, which I'm sure everybody kind of can get a sense of like what that tastes like when there's like a very strong egg flavor in these kinds of dishes. So I like the one egg in there to kind of break down that strong egg flavor. But this is pretty much heading in the direction I want it to go. And I don't have a yield on this, but I will make sure that it's in the recipe. So you will be able to scale this up if you end up making it. Now, the one thing I do love about giving lemon curd for the holidays is that it's something that you pretty much should eat right away. It lasts like up to a week in the fridge. You can freeze it up for 3 months. There are some recipes out there where you can preserve it. That's not the one I'm sharing because I kind of want you to make it and eat it right away. But when you freeze it and you're like in the middle of February and you find your little lemon curd stash, you're going to be very happy. And anyone that you give this to is going to be very happy. This is also a really nice recipe to include with the gift. So, you know, you package up the lemon curd, but share the recipe, pass it on. And since this is a really short recipe, it fits really nicely on a gift tag. Okay. So we are where I want to be for the consistency. I'm just going to double check and see what temperature we're at, because especially with food gifts, you're really trying to make sure that everybody ends up just fine once you give it to them. So I want this to get to 180, and we are there. So next thing is to strain it. So I just have a mesh strainer and a glass bowl. And I am going to pour this through. So this is going to catch some of the zest, and it's also going to catch any bits of the egg that have clumped up. So the egg whites in there, because as they cook, they will clump up just like if you like fried an egg. That's what we got going on here. So this is getting strained. And then the best part comes next, which is when I add 4 tablespoons of butter. So that's what also makes this a really rich dish. So I know when we think about giving things in the holidays, it's nice to think about what's seasonal and what's in season, which is why the apple granola is such a lovely idea. And of course, the spiced pears, they're fruit that you can get locally, especially for us. Lemons, unless you've got like a secret, tree or orchard stash in your house, they're coming from elsewhere, but they are in season in the winter, which is really nice. And I do find that lemon, especially lemons from California, are really, really lovely in the winter. I find them to be a bit juicier. Okay, so here is the lemon curd. Now I'm just going to slowly mix in 4 tablespoons of butter. When you are making this recipe, prep all your stuff ahead of time. Cut up the butter, juice the lemons, measure out the sugar. It just makes it easier because this is one of those recipes that, even though it's simple, the steps come fairly quickly. And if you're a multitasking person, it's easy to kind of get a little distracted. So I like to prep everything out ahead of time. So I'm going to continue to use the spatula and not the whisk to make this creamy. And again, to not work in any of the air, because I want this to stay this golden color. Are we doing good on time? I know we're kind of.
I think so.
I think we're doing okay, Ollie.
All right, great. Now, my first time having lemon curd, I think I just had like store-bought lemon curd out of a jar, which is perfectly lovely. But once you have it homemade, the immediacy of that like bright lemon flavor is just incomparable. Like it's so different. And that's the other part of this. Making things, I think, from scratch always have that hidden gift, is that they're always a little bit more delicious than you were expecting. And that's also something that joy that you want to pass on. You know what it tastes like. And that's so nice, because I feel half of the joy of giving away a food gift around the holidays is knowing what it tastes like and knowing how it's going to be in someone else's home and kitchen, knowing that they're going to enjoy it. And it's a gift to the gift giver as much as the person who's receiving it, because I love knowing that something that I made, something that I'm sending to another person's home is going to bring them joy, and that makes me really happy. Okay, so I have 4 tablespoons of butter that have mixed in, and we basically have liquid sunshine in this bowl. Jar this up. Wait for it to come to room temperature, stick it in the fridge, it firms up even more, and then you have lemon curd that you can gift. And I just like to save jars over the course of the year and really simply just like put a little bow on them. I was just like digging around to see if I had anything cute, and I guess I must have like impulse bought mini wreaths, but how adorable is this? Oh my gosh, I love these. Just like grab some washi tape if you want to. Like, you can write lemon curd on this and keep it really homemade for a label, print something out, find a tag, write the recipe on it, send it in an email. People are going to definitely want more than 1 jar of this. So this is definitely a gift that keeps on giving, and a new tradition that I hope people are eager to try and maybe to share. Lemon curd.
Thank you.
All right, so Mary Lee is going to bring us,
that's me.
bring us into the next batch of treats.
Well, I'm looking at these great ideas of people's traditions, and I'm thinking, hey, this is our first annual Gifts from a Joyous Kitchen webinar. But look at those recipes, the traditions. So maybe people wanted to contribute those recipes. We could put a little something together.
That's a great idea.
Wouldn't it be fun? That's very regional too. And I love the oranges. We always had oranges in our stockings too. That was so amazing. Yes. And I'd love to see where people are from. I think we have a little international thing going on. I think we have somebody from Canada, somebody from South Carolina maybe, and I don't know where other people are from across the river. That's always fun to know. So what my part is going to be is I'm doing 3 things generally. Apple cinnamon ornaments, and we can use them as tags, as you can see over here. I'm on, right? Muted, am I? Do you see these? I don't know, I only see Ollie there, but nonetheless, that's fine. Do you see the ornaments there that has the gift tag on it? So we have a lot of ornaments here. Very simple. They've lasted 30 years. I had a friend from college from Sweden. She brought me these back, and when my first was born, she made some again, and I still have this same one with his name on it and that year. So it means a lot to me. And so they last, and they always smell incredible. So I want to show you to make that. Plus, I'm also going to show you how to make a gift for our feather friends. Can you see this? I can put this down. There. Holiday wreath. for feeding the birds, and that ties into next week's webinar as part of our holiday series with Dyke and Pond and Cooperative Extension. Have a wonderful educator. His name is Josh Polito, and he's going to teach us about birds in our yard and birds and the wonders of them in our lives. And so I wanted to share an opportunity to feed them and bring them to us. And then the last thing I'm going to work and show you about is shipping. If it fits, it ships boxes, my favorite things. You'd be surprised what you can fit in there. And some of the things are what we learned about last year with the YouTube. Last week, excuse me, on the webinar, there's some instructions for some of the things you're going to see, soothing socks, etc. So the first thing we're going to do is make, you can see this. This is the cinnamon apple cinnamon ornament. It's very simple. It is literally 1-to-1 ratio. Sorry about all that sound, but 1-to-1 ratio of cinnamon and applesauce. And that's if the applesauce is not really wet. Otherwise, go a little bit lighter on the applesauce. So I have it already measured because I must have had ESP and took Ollie's advice, which was have things ready ahead of time. 1 cup of applesauce. You don't need to use your fancy, wonderful stuff that you worked very hard to grow the apples. This is an ornament that will last a long time, and it already smells incredible. Not as beautiful as that spiced pear, which honestly, that spiced pear is memorable. 1 cup of cinnamon. You're going to put it all together and mix. Can you see that? Okay. And it smells incredible. We all know cinnamon and fruit is just I don't know, something innate in us makes us happy. So, and I'm going to probably have to wash my hands after this, but you do have to stir a little bit, mix it real well, and you do eventually have to put your hands in it, which is great if I didn't have to cook 3 other things, make 3 other things, but it'll be fine. So it works really well. Kids love working with this because it's just gooey and messy, and then it becomes something beautiful and very personal because they can cut their own shapes and decorate them with a Sharpie. I find that the silver Sharpie shows the best, but this is basically what it becomes. You try to make it the consistency of cookie dough, I'd say, and maybe even a little less sticky. And then what you're going to do is sprinkle your board with cinnamon so it won't stick. Put that on there. Your trusty rolling pin, and I have about 6 or 8 of them so I could hand them around, but right now I guess I'll be the only one here doing this. So work it with your hand. Now it's not so messy. I feel a lot better about that. Okay, mix it, mix it, and mix it. Oh, it does smell incredible. Every time I open my ornaments for the holidays, this is what I smell, happiness. So it really is a great project. I just really do like this. So you're gonna roll it out. You might wanna put a little more cinnamon on this. You don't want it sticking. And I did learn a couple things. I did, you should roll it out to about 1/4 inch. Go a little bit thicker than thinner because it will likely crack if you don't. Okay, so let's just call it that. Okay, and then of course, dip your cutter into the cinnamon again and start cutting out your ornaments. And the best idea that I've seen is to use ornaments that are about 3 inches or 2 inches in size and not too many long appendages. Like the horse over here is wonderful. And he may last, but he'll probably be the first to crack in the 5 or 6 years. I put some a little too thin and, you know, rolled them out a little too thin. Can you see that? And they did crack. So I am seeing that a little bit thicker is better. Like this evergreen tree is a little thicker and sturdier. You can see, but some of them are a little too thin. So, and then after you roll them out, and a little bit sticky yet, so I'll have to work on that. But you get the idea of rolling them out, picking them up, and I usually use a spatula. Of course, rubbed into the cinnamon first so that it will do better when you're lifting it up. And You would continue on with that until your tray was filled or your dough was finished. And then you can do one of two things. You can put them in the oven for 200 degrees for 2 hours and check them. Or you can leave them simply out on the counter to dry for 1 or 2 days. And you just check them for being very dry. Oh, excuse me, I did forget to mention, it is very important to poke a hole into the ornament at the top part with a toothpick or with a very sharp chopstick to make sure that you can put your ribbons through. And a little bit bigger than you might think, just a little bit bigger, because when they shrink, it does fill in a little. And if it does, use the tongue of a fork and scrape it out. If the edges are sharp, you can also sandpaper them when they're dry. So it's as easy as that. The ornaments with the Sharpie, as I mentioned, when they're decorated, you know, you can see what you can see there, because I have the light shining. But, you know, just simple as that. Make a design, you know, the pattern of language. That's kind of a nice, simple thing to do. And kids just enjoy it. Don't get the bronze one, it doesn't show up. So that is the ornaments or tags. They can be used as tags. So I'm going to move this, give me one moment, and I will show you how to make the bird feeder, our feathered friends wreath. Let me just move this over to the side.
Mary Lee, would it be okay to ask a quick question that's in the chat for Ollie?
Yeah, please. Yes.
Somebody wanted to know, let's see, how long does it last? I thought there was a question about how long it takes.
To make the whole thing?
Yep.
I mean, what you saw me do was kind of real time. So the only thing that I didn't do on camera was crack the eggs and beat them with the sugar, and then reduce the lemon juice from a cup down to a 3/4 cup, which truly takes like a matter of minutes. So this is a very fast recipe. But one other thing that I wanted to add that I forgot to mention is at the very end, add a pinch of salt. Just like anything else you season your lemon curd. And this is, I just put it in a jar. Like, don't you want this for Christmas? This is so happy making. And your pancakes and your yeasted waffles, I saw that in there, will be very happy to have this all over them. So, all right. Back to you, Mary Lee.
Okay, first of all, if you really want to invite your feathered friends, get yourself started with 5 teaspoons of unflavored gelatin, and that is 1 package, any package of any type of unflavored gelatin, but it's 5 teaspoons, so really 2 small packages. So each one is about 2.5 teaspoons. So just pour that in to a bowl. And then you mix it with warm water, and it's just 1/2 cup of warm water. So I had it ready in a thermos. And you want to mix that. So we're pouring that in there and stirring it. And just use a fork. And first you just want to get this dissolved. That's the whole point. I was trying to find suet because there are recipes to use suet for these bird wreaths, bird seed wreaths. But for some reason, I went to a couple of different butchers and they said they don't have suet. And I had people around me in line, so I didn't have a chance to really find out why. But it seems an odd thing this year. So, but you can use this recipe, which is water and unflavored gelatin, 3 tablespoons of corn syrup. Put it right in there. That's what this is. Light corn syrup. If you have the dark, it really doesn't matter. Stir that really well. And get that to be a mixture that's getting smooth and well mixed. Now this will start thickening up. So you do have to work rather intentionally to make sure that it doesn't get too firm before you put it in the pan. And then you're going to use 3/4 cup of white flour or whole wheat flour. So that's going in, and we're stirring that in to make it really a paste, the binding agent. And so that will be ready in a moment. This does become a really lovely present, and you can ship this. You'll see in the shipping part. You can ship this right in a plastic bag, put a cording around it that we learned about last week, a yarn twisted, several rows of yarn, just twisted tightly, folded in half, and it becomes a rope cording, and they make great wrapping ties, gift ties for wrapping. So I'm almost here. This one does get really messy. Not as, I thought the other one wasn't as messy, but this will. And your kids will love it. Your friends will like it. You can plan this on Zoom and you do it together, and it just makes you laugh because it's so gooey. Okay, so then you're going to take a pan. Let's see. You're going to put the bird seed in. I'm going to put the bird seed right here. Okay, 4 cups of bird seed, mixed bird seed. And the bird seed is millet and corn and sunflower seeds. You can substitute some other kinds of dried fruits, cracked corn. Actually, last week I sifted the whole corn that we made those soothing socks with, and you can put some of that in, but the total should be just 4 cups. So that's going right in. And now we're mixing it. And this is where you have to work a little bit. And I use the spoon as long as I can because I will be finding the seeds everywhere otherwise. Try to bind it as much as you can. Because if I use my hands right now, I'll have like 5 pounds of bird seeds stuck to them. Okay. And if you have plastic gloves, this would be a good time to use them. I don't know if you can see. It would be a good time to use those plastic gloves, but if you don't, you can always use those lunch baggies. Looks kind of silly, but it works pretty well. So you have to work this really pretty well. And this is where I would do this at home. Put these on. Okay. And start mixing it in. And you just have to work it quickly. Smells like outside, which is beautiful. And I can just imagine the live birds coming. And they're so cheerful when they show up. Don't we all feel much happier when the birds show up eating something that you put out there? They're like your friends showing up. When we worked on our house, we put 1 shrub outside. We had it transplanted from some parking lot area. Was getting rid of a huge rhododendron. And my son and a couple of his friends surprised me, dug it out. Literally, the ball of it was 5 feet, the root ball. Dug it out, brought it outside. And then I sat in my home, which had no landscaping around it. And all of a sudden, 3 or 4 birds landed on this bush. And I felt like my house was now a home. It was a beautiful thing. So birds really are amazing. They are a gift to us all. I'm looking forward to next week's program on that. So now you're going to take, this is, and I think I saw someone mention it might be fig pudding, Lori. I think you mentioned it, that my grandmother makes. So this is what she uses. But I am going to saturate it with oil. Notice the squeeze bottle, nothing to it. It's just a bottle that sprays. And it's a good way to have your oil go far instead of wasting it on a cloth. But you can do that too. And saturate it. And then put 1 or 2 twigs entwined right down in the center because it really helps with structural rigidity. It's amazing. You just put a couple layers in there. Just, wire's going to end up on your lawn or in the environment somewhere, and you don't need it. Just, this happens to be grapevines. It could be any twigs. Just twisted them in there. And then, here we go. And do that again. You're going to fill it. And this is where I will see this for the next 10 years. Anyway, so you fill it, and you press down very, very firmly. And I mean, really work it. Pretend you don't have to go to the gym after this because you really are going to work it really hard because that is going to give it its strength when it dries, as it dries, okay? So that binding material needs to be touching the seeds and to the other binding material. So press it really hard and keep doing that until it's completed. Oh, I did forget. Put the cranberries at the bottom first because the bottom will be the top. So I'm sorry about that. Just put a few cranberries. If you put too many, it may not adhere to the binding agent. So don't, if you put too many. So just put a few around for decoration. You can also chop them up and mix it in. You can use dried cranberries or other dried fruits, but they do look great. So now this is going to be pressed hard. I would still be working this. Then I could put it downstairs in the refrigerator or on the counter for an overnight at least. And it's already getting thicker. I mean, it's already sticking. You can see it's, you know, it's getting a little firm. So put it downstairs or downstairs, put it in your refrigerator on a counter, leave it for an overnight at least. And then when it's hard, I did this last night. So here's one like this. This is the real bun pan. It's hard. You can feel that it's really hard. So it's not cured yet, but it's pretty close. So you want it out of this. And I was reading online, there was a trick that you put a cloth wrapped underneath. You just drape it in there, and it's supposed to pull it out more easily. But first I'm going to try, so I don't chance breaking it, putting it without pulling it out. If I need it, I will. Well, that was pretty good. Did anybody hear that? I can't hear anybody. Okay, well, not bad, not bad. So you can see this could be there, but they don't have to be. This will come off. I'm just going to let this go on, but you can see the wreath and the idea of the wreath, right? And then the important thing to remember is to use a wide ribbon to hang it because there won't be a cutting place. A thin ribbon will probably cut it sooner. Here's another small one I made yesterday. Same thing, but this one's pretty dry. I mean, that's pretty good, you know? So I would be putting this ribbon right through here. Hanging that, put a bow or not. And you get the idea, but you get a nice ribbon out of this, a nice hanging item out of that. You can hang it up and make sure you double knot it. You can hang it up, and that looks pretty nice. Doesn't it look festive on your own? I mean, it's really a wonderful thing to go see in your own yard as you're coming home and you have your feathered friends showing up. So that is a joyful kitchen item. My kitchen is a workshop. Sometimes I make food in it. So that's what happens in our kitchen. So that's, I really do enjoy that. And I hope that they'll show up in real life. Okay, so that's that. Oh, by the way, you can make those into ornaments also. Just pack those into cutting the open cookie cutter ornaments. So just pack them into that, oil them up really well, and then you do have to put a hole into them also through to have those hang, but the same way, but you use an ornament. And those are great gifts to ship. Everybody can enjoy that. So that's the Christmas wreath ornaments. The holiday wreath ornaments. And the last thing I want to show you is something that is a little compilation of last week and this week. Last week, Eileen DePaula from the 4-H department and Candace Freer did a great program on memory pillows. They're taking a shirt, cut a couple of squares in the front of the shirt. So both ways, put a pillow inside, and you have a great gift from someone you love that are still over in another country or another city, or grandparents sending to their grandkids, or children sending to their aunts and uncles would be nice. So you can make these bags. This is a t-shirt gift bag. So I decided, gee, let's make holiday bags. It's so much more fun than paper, and we can't get out. So these were picked deliberately so we didn't have to go to the store. So there's all these types of bags, and I'll show you what they look like. And we'll go online to YouTube, because the YouTube video shows how to make these t-shirt bags. Cut the sleeves off, cut the neck off, slice up the bottom, and can you see the braiding? It's inside the other way. It's just tying the opposite sides together. And I literally could carry a bushel of apples in this. I have done it. I could not believe the strength. But what great gift bags. And I have a friend, Marsha, who loves cats. So just simple things that, make great bags. And they are useful. You can store things in your closet. You can store things in your cabinet. You can carry things. I mean, they're practical. And now that we have to get our own bags, that's what we're going to be doing, is figuring out our own ways. So like I said, most of these things you have right in your own home. So here's what this would be. You have to go to the door. look what came. A gift for me or my family, maybe. Let's see what's in there. A holiday in a box. Isn't that wonderful? Look at that. Oh my gosh, this is great. And they didn't have to go out shopping to wrap. That's my kind of present. So here's what you can do. My recommendation is to find a shipping box you're willing to pay for. The smallest ones are $8 or $9. I can pack a lot of weight because no matter what the weight is, it goes to Alaska, Hawaii, it goes to other countries, I think to Canada, for one price. And you can put a lot of heavy, delicious, wonderful things like fudge, densely pack, and think about the shape and size, cut it to fit it. No one is sorry to get to another thing of fudge or small jars of jam. Now this size, say for instance, I would take the box and then determine, okay, what do I think they might enjoy? These were the comfort socks from last week we made. They're on the YouTube video, and simply it is corn inside and or rice. Simply fill a clean sock. 100% cotton is best for the microwave, and you fill it with either corn or rice. And the second sock can be the cleanable, the cover you can take off and clean. So it doesn't have to match, but if it does, that's great. And this is the cording that we made last week. So look on the video. This is literally strands of yarn, twisted, pulled in half, and it twists on itself, and it makes the sweetest cords. So that material, those items can be the lining. Like I said, it's rice and feed corn, whole kernel corn, not cracked corn. This holds the heat and it lasts literally for years. You microwave those sacks for about a minute, and then 30-second intervals, add another half minute, check again. They stay warm for about an hour, and they make great feet warmers, cold packs from your freezer. If you have an injury or you want to keep your food cold or your food warm, wonderful for arthritis because it's a warm, moist heat. So those can be the stuffing material. So think about that. That's the padding, okay, for your things in your box. And then you're going to take your jars, if you want to send jars. We want to stay home. We're not going looking around shopping. So we can use bubble wrap, cut it to size, cut it very thin, wrap it up, tape it. Now that's protected. This is all different leaves for teas. I think one of the food preservers, Julie Miller, may do one on teas for us sometime. This is black currant, strawberry leaves, and another type. And these are individual bags wrapped with a cord. That goes in there. Thank you, Erin, for your great ideas, because you very much inspired me. And thank you for that nice container, if anybody recognizes it. I love it. I think it's made with airplane material. Anyway, and Jamaica beef jerky. We have a master food preserver that we're hoping, because she's also hunts deer, she makes beef jerky out of venison. And we're hoping that in January that she will be able to do a webinar on beef jerky. This is heavenly. It's barbecued with Jamaican spices in there. Thank you. Actually, I have to say, Holly told me about that. This is dried blueberries, dried raspberries, just with the same methods that Erin was teaching us. Go on to the websites for the home preservation or cooperative extension has it, and you can learn how to dry your own food. You can buy it in the grocery store right now. Rinse the root blueberries and learn how to dehydrate them, and they are super flavorful because they are concentrated. Granola, maple granola, and there is on the PDF celery salt, fresh celery, leaves dried. It is so wonderfully intense. I can smell it right now. It's incredible. So that can be in there. And here's the most important thing is Cooperative Extension has a website called Harvest Connection, and you can look up local farms in Rensselaer County, and they will have ideas for you to buy things to put in your shipping box. Isn't that amazing? It's popcorn on the cob. what a beautiful thing to send to kids. Corn. I mean, anything you can do with the senses. We have scone mixes. I think that's Christie's Barn. And we have Matt and Andy's popping on the cob. Pop on the cob. And how adorable is that? And just enough to make you want to come back home to the Northeast. Hint to everybody out there that's too far away. Okay, so you get the idea. All of that can go in there. And then you get your handy tape. Look at that. Is that not wonderful? So I think this is $12, $15. Most of us are staying home by ourselves or with somebody in our home that we love, but you know, same old people, we love them, but you know, so it is wonderful to ship a holiday in a box for the people you care about. So that's all I've got. Thank you very much for that opportunity. And thank you, Erin and Bernie and Ollie and all of the participants. We really do appreciate you being here. We hope you have a wonderful holiday. But I think Erin and Ollie have something to close, and I think Bernie does too. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for everyone that attended. And if anyone does have any questions, either about anything that was in this webinar or any questions about food preservations, please feel free to reach out to the extension. I think Bernie will put her email in the chat box. So, sorry, I've got some tired kids. So Bernie can put her email in the chat box, and please feel free with any questions. Let us know and we can get back to you.
No,
And
I
if
love
you,
it.
if you guys try anything, let us know. Snap a picture, you know, send an email. We really would love to know if any of these things ended up in your kitchen.
Absolutely.
Right. I just want to thank our presenters tonight. They did a fantastic job. Inquiring Wines want to know, what's the cat's name, Erin, that's in the video?
I think that was Lincoln. We've got two cats. They're both all white cats. They're brother and sister. But I believe that was Lincoln.
Oh.
Tom Thumb says, great to know. Well, I do want to thank everybody who tuned in. Some really great ideas. I want to encourage you to think about spending time with us next Tuesday for Amazing Birds. Mary Lee did a great plug, and it's a nice segue with her bird feeder molds that she did tonight, her bird feeder wreaths. So I'm not going to spend any more of your valuable time. I want to just say thanks for coming. Please feel free to reach out to us. Use my email if you have any questions to follow up with. And hopefully we'll see many of you next week. Have a great holiday.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Take care. Thank you for participating.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank
Good
you all.
night. Happy holidays.
Good night, Cal. Good night, Ethan.